The wait is finally over. Seahawks football is back as your Seattle Seahawks take on the Los Angeles Rams in the season opener from Lumen Field in Seattle. Tyler Jones here with you with a complete, comprehensive preview of Sunday's matchup. Coming up later in the show, I'll give you my prediction. I got 5 keys to victory as well as a look at the injury report with some pretty big injury news that we'll get to in a moment. But first, you gotta join us coming up on Sunday for our first watch party of the year. Myself, Smitty, we're going to be here. It is going to be a great time. Super Chat Palooza, drinks on hand. We're going to be partying, breaking down the game in real time. If you're going to miss it, then you are a hater. You're not a real member of the 12s if you're not hanging with us on Sunday. We're going to have a great time. You got to be here. If you love your Seattle Seahawks, join us. 1:25 Pacific on Sunday. Seahawks Today Live. First watch party. Come hang with us. Let's go over the injury report for your Seattle Seahawks. And a couple notable guys already out. No Derek Young. No Jamal Adams. We already knew that, of course. No surprises on that end. Darrell Taylor and Mike Morris, those guys are probable. Sounds like they're on track to playing this weekend. Meanwhile, Jordyn Brooks and Jaxon Smith-Njigba are questionable. Seems like JSN is on track at least to play. Devon Witherspoon, we were told last week that it was unlikely he would play this upcoming Sunday, but he has practiced this week. Kenny McIntosh, he's questionable. And then Oluwatimi, he is questionable, as is Derek Hall and Cody Thompson with a shoulder injury. So that was a long injury report for the Seahawks, but optimistic. Comparably speaking to the LA Rams, Cooper Kupp is out. The Rams' top target is not going to play with a hamstring injury, a huge blow to the LA Rams and their offense not having Kupp involved. Havenstein is questionable with a neck injury. Noteboom is questionable with an undisclosed injury. Kendrick with a hamstring questionable. And Hunter Long is questionable with an undisclosed injury. So breaking down the entire injury report by both teams piece by piece. I'll put it this way. It's huge for the Seahawks to get Taylor and Morris back. Sounds like that they're on the right track. Darrell Taylor, I think, in particular, should get a decent amount of playing time. And it's a big break for the Seahawks not to have to deal with Cooper Kupp. Because when he's healthy, Cooper Kupp's one of the best receivers in the National Football League. He and Matthew Stafford have been a really good combination together en route to winning that Super Bowl a couple years ago. So just getting him out of the equation makes life a lot easier for the Seahawks not having to cover Cooper Kupp. So, not wishing any bad will on Cooper Kupp, but for the Seattle, this is a big break for this team. What will the score be? I got my prediction for you coming up later in the show, but your chance to weigh in here on Seahawks Today are pin comment. What will the final score be? Who wins? Obviously, you're picking the Seahawks. What's the final score going to be? Tell me in the comment section. Let me know how this one plays out on Sunday. Keys to victory for Seattle. Got to start fast if you're the Seattle Seahawks. This team needs to come firing out of the gates as far as I'm concerned and really just set the tone right away. We know the crowd's going to be rocking. It's going to be a great atmosphere for the Seahawks team, and the energy needs to really get going from the jump, and that's on the offense to get the scoring going from the beginning. Did you know the Seahawks last year were really good about getting off to fast starts? They scored on 43.2% of their drives in the first quarter last season, which was the best in the NFL. Now, listen to this. On the opposite side, here's a little bull stat for you. The Rams' defense allowed scores on 39.5% of opponents' drives in the first quarter last season, which was the worst in the NFL. So, in a nutshell, in 2022, the Seahawks were great at getting off to fast starts, and the Rams struggled with giving up points in the first quarter. Sounds like the recipe writes itself right there. Let's see the Seahawks get this thing going right away and set the tone early. Number 2 on my keys to the game for the Seahawks, let Geno cook, okay? I want to see Geno come out of the gates and go guns a-blazing. I don't want to see Geno hold back. I want to see him do his own thing and let him work. We know that this offense begins with the run game, but I want to see Geno Smith really just be unleashed, not held back, because we know he's got the protection. The offensive line is going to be better than what it was last year. These skill position players were good last year, and they're elevated even a step further. I trust Geno Smith to get the job done. And think about this, okay? You look at the numbers last season, and it was a tale of two seasons, essentially, for Geno Smith. The first 8 games of the year, 13 touchdowns, 3 picks, QBR 107.2. Completion percentage near 73%. But then those final 9 games, we saw a different Geno. 17 touchdowns, 8 picks. It wasn't bad, those final 9 games, but it wasn't as good as what he was in those first 8 games. I want to see an unleashed Geno Smith ball out and be the quarterback we saw in those first 8 games. If he plays like he did in those first 8 games, the Seahawks win, they're in good shape. And you look at the guys he's got to work with. I mean, there's so many. We couldn't even get them all on the screen, folks. Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jaxon Smith-Njigba, Jake Bobo, Noah Fant, Will Dissly, and the list goes on with guys like Colby Parkinson and DJ Dallas and others here. This offense is going to be explosive, and it's a gift that Geno Smith has to work with. Let him cook. Let him unleash. Let's see Geno roll. What's your confidence level in the Seahawks offense? Scale it for me 1 through 10. How you feeling about the Seahawks heading into Sunday offensively? I feel really, really good. Weigh in. Tell me what you think in the comments section. 1 through 10, your confidence level in the Seahawks offense. Number 3 on my keys to victory, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. And the big story that we've talked about all season long, all offseason long, the Seahawks needed to address was run defense and stopping the run. Now, I hate to do this to you folks, but you might want to hide your eyes for a second, because here were the run defense numbers from the Seahawks last year, and they weren't pretty. Last season, opponent rush play percentage, 47.25%. That was 29th in the NFL. Opponent yards per rush, 4.9 yards per rush. That was 26th in the league. Opponent rushing yards, rushes per game, 31. That was 30th in the league. Opponent rushing yards per game, 151.9. That was 30th in the league. And then opponent rushing touchdowns per game, 1.2. 27th in the league. Those numbers were atrocious last year. The Seahawks made some improvements to this defense and have some guys that should do a better job when it comes to run defense. I'm looking at you, Boye Mafe. I like him much better when it comes to run defense than a guy like Darrell Taylor, for example. But even with that said, we're all sitting here very nervously about the interior of the defensive line, how it's going to hold up. And Cam Akers isn't that bad of a running back either. Sure, he's not, a guy like Christian McCaffrey or Josh Jacobs necessarily, but Cam Akers should not be taken lightly. This is a guy last year that rushed for over 4 yards a carry, had 7 touchdowns and 786 yards. Cam Akers isn't bad, and he cannot, I think, be forgotten about. See, the Seahawks got to do their job to slow down Cam Akers and not make him a problem. Can't be the reason why they lose is because Cam Akers went off. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code Seahawks125, you will get a 125% deposit bonus. Put $100 down, you get $125 to spend for free at chatsports.com/bet with that promo code Seahawks125. Seattle favored by 5.5. The total over-under is at 46. You want to bet on your Seattle Seahawks or other games across the National Football League, you can do so. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code Seahawks125 to get your bets in today. We continue with our keys to the game for the Seahawks, and next up is winning the turnover battle. It's not just protecting the football, but it's also creating turnovers as well. And this is where things get interesting. As I looked into the analytics and the statistics of this matchup, I found this very interesting when looking back at the Seattle Seahawks last year. Get this, folks. The Seahawks had an overall record in 2022 of 9-4. So that's nearly a 70% winning percentage last season when forcing one or more turnovers. Pretty good, right? You create at least a turnover, you win most of the time if you're the Seattle Seahawks last year. And a guy I'm watching for, a player to watch for this statistic, is none other than our man Reek Woolen, formerly known as Tariq Woolen. I hope that Reek is aware, watching film on Matthew Stafford. I'll say this. I like Matt Stafford personally. This is not a diss on Matt Stafford at all. Super Bowl winning quarterback. Very well one day might actually even be a Hall of Famer. So this is not a diss on Matt Stafford. Don't take this the wrong way. But the weakness of Matt Stafford's game is that he turns the football over a lot, that he throws a lot of interceptions. Even the year they won the Super Bowl, the last season he was fully healthy back in 2021, he was tied for the league lead in picks with 17. So Rick Woolen, who was tied for the league lead in interceptions last year on defense with 6, watch out. He could have a day potentially. We'll see if he can take one away from Matt Stafford. Last on the list, red zone offense. Shout out our boy Scott Hansen. The witching hour is near. Hopefully the Seattle Seahawks are on the better end of the witching hour and own the red zone. Last season, the Seahawks red zone offense was not that great. Ranked 27th in the NFL last year. That's got to greatly improve for the Seahawks. And I think one reason why that I feel better about red zone offense and, staying out of the friend zone and getting into the end zone is because of what the Seahawks made improvements-wise in the offensive line. Not only are Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas going to be a year older and have more experience in run defense, which they didn't do a whole lot, or run blocking rather, which they didn't do a whole lot of in college when Cross was at Mississippi State and Abraham Lucas at Washington State. But you add in Evan Brown, who I think is going to be an upgrade at the center spot. Phil Haynes, I think, is solid. Damian Lewis and company. I like this group. This offensive line, I think, is going to take a step in the right direction. And if they're not good enough, well, Anthony Bradford, Oluwatimi, those guys are going to be more than excited about the opportunity potentially to get to play for the Seahawks there. So those are my keys to victory. Got to start fast. Let Geno Smith-Cook do his thing. Show up, show out. Stop the run. Don't underestimate Cam Akers. Win the turnover battle. Create some turnovers. And then red zone offense. Got to do a better job than you did last year. I have my official prediction that I will get to in a moment. But I want to hear from you first. Who will be the Seahawks MVP against the Rams week 1? I'm going to lean towards Geno for week 1. I think Geno really gets excited and sets the tone early for this upcoming season. Geno's my pick. Give me your MVP for the Seahawks against the LA Rams. My official prediction, I am going to go with a Seahawks win 31-17. I think this offense is going to be rolling. The defense is going to make enough plays. I think the Seahawks ultimately pull away in the fourth quarter and insert their will and get the job done, start the season 1-0 with a commanding win, double digits, and this game's not in doubt. 31-17, my official prediction. Don't miss out. We're going to be live for the entire game on Sunday. Myself, Smitty, will be here with you. Coverage begins at 1:25 Pacific, live right here on Seahawks Today. You will not want to miss it. We shall see you then here on the channel. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the game.